on a 10-minute presentation, you've been called back to give the presentation. We're looking for you to speak only about the ethical aspect of the problem and explain your solution that handles this ethical issue. You'll have 10 minutes. I'll keep track of the time. As we get to 9 minutes, I'll just put the sign up that says 1 minute so you have an idea what that looks like. There will be no Q&A in this session as we had in the prior session. And so that's the 10-minute presentation. Tom, do you want to do your introductions?
Yeah, my name is Tom Fain. I believe I met you the other day, so you all recognize me probably, even though I go between dark and light here for some reason. Still haven't figured that one out.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, mine again, I am a consultant with TRJ Healthcare, so I haven't met you yet, but I am in the business of consultancies. All right. So when you're ready, we have the clock when you say ready to go, and we look forward to your introductions of your members of your team as well.
So I think just to be safe, we'll just all go through our name and what we're studying and just avoid our school. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Kyle Farrell, and I'm a junior studying international business and sustainability.
My name is Mary Argybright, and I'm a junior studying international business.
My name is Nicole Simos, and I'm a senior studying international economics.
I'm Yael Sternberg. I'm a junior studying international affairs, conflict resolution, and sustainability.
Okay. So we're ready to go. I got 9:04, 10 minutes. Who's starting?
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute my computer. Okay. Hello, my name is Nicole, and I thank you so much for inviting us back today to present on the ethical standards of Titan Group, specifically focusing on your subsidiary, Tanishq. We plan to show importance of respecting human rights in your sourcing of gold and diamonds and the advantage of doing so. I'll first begin by reintroducing you to the problem at large. Kyle will then restate our recommendations and what their impact is. And Mary will then outline the most relevant frameworks on ethical sourcing to provide a way to measure company performance. Finally, I will conclude on a note of hope for the future. So currently, Tanishq has launched a wedding sub-brand called Riva. As you know, we are looking to bring in 50% of jewelry sales from our wedding lines along by 2022, which is up 20% from its current sales. Wedding jewelry has very close cultural ties to Indian culture. And interestingly, it's used to be solely purchased by men, and women would stockpile the jewelry as a commodity. However, today we're looking at a different story where women in younger market segments, including Generation Z and millennials, make up the majority of the wedding jewelry consumer base. To cater to this new target market, we here at Tanishq have not only increased our wedding lines, but as you know, we've increased the amount of our diamond-based and gold-based wedding collections. It's important to note that the consumer base is 75% more likely to purchase sustainably sourced products. This directly relates to the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 12, sustainable production and consumption. This includes a series of attributes, including confirmation of a clean supply chain that minimizes environmental damages, really ensuring that sourcing is conflict-free. And we also want to ensure that labor is fair play with no child exploitation and safe work conditions, and that there is compliance with international policies. This included the UN Global Compact and the Responsible Jewelry Council. Participant businesses in these organizations go through extensive auditing to affirm their CSR actions and are considered trailblazers within the same. We here at Tanishq have the very unique opportunity to jump on board of these industry best sustainability practices, to not only act to push the bounds of these best practices, but recapture our consumer target market. Becoming a sustainable company is within reach. And using our recommendations that Kyle will go over next, your company can be ready for changing markets and a changing world.
That's right. The market really is changing for jewelry in diamonds and in gold. And now that Tanishq is moving forward, approaching this younger female Indian market that has financial independence, it's important that Tanishq's goals and objectives are clear to the customers that want to buy more sustainable goods. A lot of us have heard the story of blood diamonds. It's been a very common news piece now in terms of sustainable industries because there was so much conflict and violence connected to the diamond and gold mining industries, especially in Africa. Now, Tanishq makes it a little bit difficult for people on the outside to determine where their gold and diamonds are coming from. They were assessed by the Human Rights Watch in a report of the 13 largest jewelry conglomerates in the world, and they were ranked as one of the lowest of those 13 companies in terms of their sustainable supply chain back in 2017. Now, what is the issue with blood diamonds? What really happens on the ground that makes us so shocked at the unsustainable practices in place? First, we see extensive human rights abuses. This can be in terms of funding violent conflict in the area and harming their communities. It can also be minimal pay, exploitation, indentured servitude, and things that limit people's independence and economic freedoms, as well as having child labor and fatal working conditions for those children just to find that next piece of gold or that next diamond. And we see stories that show little children that can fit into these caverns under the ground with no equipment to protect them at all. No oxygen tanks or anything, simply using a straw that connects out to the outside world so that they can get whatever oxygen they can manage and dive down to find these minerals. These are the conditions that communities are facing around the world, and it's critical that customers buying this jewelry know if this is happening for the necklaces that they're wearing or for the diamonds that they're giving for their weddings. So for Tanishq to move forward, they need to address these human rights conditions, as well as trying to do what they can to make sure that the public health impact and environmental damage of their supply chain is as minimum as possible. So our recommendations were framed around, first, creating a more sustainable supply chain, turning toward the gold bullion market in banks instead of gold mining, and looking into the new opportunities for diamond mining in India so that they can have a closer eye over the operations and maintain better humanitarian standards in India. We also would encourage Tanishq to move forward and allow third parties to come in and audit their process again. A lot has changed in the Tanishq supply chain since 2017, and we think that they're ready to bring in outside parties to validate and advise their best sustainable practices. Now we're going to have Mary tell us a little bit about how this fits into ethical frameworks that Tanishq can use on the ground.
So as Kyle just mentioned, there's a lot of wars caused by this political instability. And we know for a fact that civil wars have a contagion effect. So if you help people in one country, it'll automatically have a chain reaction that'll help people in the surrounding countries. So one of the frameworks is the UN 7 Human Security Framework. So what is a human security? A human security is a theory that says for national security, we shouldn't focus so much on military presence, but instead protecting our people and making sure they have everything they need to live. So for your company, there are 3 that stand out: personal security, economic security, and community security. Personal security makes sure that your people have the individual and necessary human rights to live a good, happy life. Community security takes a step further and makes sure that they also have a voice in society and can make choices they want. Economic security is protecting everyone with a minimum living wage and making sure they have access. Major 7 securities. There are also other securities that are not so known and not so included in the framework, such as skill reproduction security, and that's the ability for workers to learn new skills such as education. Now, each of these are interconnected and all around the same level. It also helps to have a framework like this, because if your company, say, wants to pivot to like environmental security, they don't have to find a complete new framework. They can just alter their direction and go for it. So when thinking about the 7 human securities, we created the 4-step framework for you, which we previously mentioned. The first step was maintain highest standards. And so when you're maintaining the highest standards, it may be a little bit of a stretch goal for you right now. And a stretch goal is something that you can't reach yet, but if you practice more and keep auditing, you will eventually get there. So right now, maintain high standards might be a little out of your reach, but if it's the goal, then by working toward it a little and a little, you'll be able to achieve it. For the second step, do no harm. This typically applies to medical practices, but in your company, we're relating it to situational awareness. You need to know what your stakeholders are doing, who you're interacting with, and what the impression is on the people and the workers around them. For number 3, we said protect human rights. Now, human rights are essential for life. They're the individual freedoms that people need. And by protecting the human rights, you won't fall into traps of like law and legal sue cases or anything like that. You'll be able to continue working normally and healthily. And for our last step, empower workers. It's necessary that your workers have a voice in what they're doing and what they can control, so they can add their opinions and create a better final product for your company. And now Nicole will end us on a note of hope.
Thank you so much, Mary. As my teammates have expressed, Tanishq has the unique opportunity to change supplier choices without having very heavy capital investment. We have to jump on this opportunity to lead at the forefront of industry best practices. Our Indian competitors have fallen behind, and they're engaged in poor supply chain practices. Just because no other Indian company within our industry is following the best ethical practices put in place by global competitors like De Beers and Tiffany and Company does not mean that we should continue to ignore SDG 12 and perpetuate a supply chain that is not sustainable. Tanishq today is presented with a very unique opportunity to do good for the world as we see changing consumer sentiment trending to purchasing more sustainable items. We should hop on this train before it's too late and start spreading that positive cycle as we work to make our supply chain more transparent. Thank you so much.